Welcome into another episode of the Stokastic MMA strategy shows. We're here to get you ready for Saturday's UFC San Diego. This will be the first of 3 straight events where the UFC will be fighting in front of fans. This week is San Diego, next week Salt Lake City, and then 2 weeks after that they will be in Paris, France. And we're here to break this one down for you. Of course, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. Talk about some of those great props Prize Picks has over at prizepicks.com. We'll talk about those throughout the show, plus got a ton of other goodies to talk about with you here. And of course, as always, I'm joined by the fighter Pete Rogers Jr. Good afternoon, Pete. How you doing, bro?
Afternoon. What's going on?
Oh, man, I'm just hanging out, just hanging out. Yeah, got a busy afternoon, but I was up bright and early this morning, kind of cranking along, getting some stuff done, as they say.
Nice. And we have another week. Interesting card. It's all right. It's all right. I'm hoping for better cards coming, but some interesting matchups and some fighters that I really like to watch. So I'm cool with it. I
would have thought if you would not have told me this card's in San Diego, I would have thought it's an Apex show. But something to note, it is the big 30-foot cage on Saturday, not the 25-footer. John Anik talked about that on his show last week. Of course, line those questions up in chat. Do want to mention a question we got a little before the show from one of our Stokastic Plus members, and it was asking us to go over Fancy Cruncher on the show. Says, do you set your randomness differently based on slate size? Do you run different crunches with different randomness? What groups do you set and why? How many uniques do you want per lineup? Anything along those lines would be greatly appreciated. I'll start off with the uniques per lineup. Generally, for me, it's 2 uniques per lineup. I don't know if you're any different than me on that.
It's got to be at least 2, because then you're just going to basically have a ton of lineups that are extremely similar with little one-offs. And that's okay as long as you set your groups correctly. But I do think 2 to 3 is fine, especially how I'm building my my crunches. I'll crunch a lot with 3 uniques, and then I will combine the crunches and then do some more with just 2 as well.
And I'll say this, like when I'm doing dummy crunches, like basically what I'll probably more times what I'll do is I'll say 2 uniques, I'll do 20% randomness, and then I may tell it to crunch 500 lineups. Just because I just want to see what it presents to me as, what I would call a dummy crunch before I'm kind of going in there and, setting groups. I will say this in terms of I'm not as aggressive on setting groups in MMA as I am, say, in NASCAR. In NASCAR, I'm very aggressive with setting groups, like where I'm wanting dominators and I'm wanting, setting about, hey, don't give me the crappy drivers, those punt plays or, PD upside. In MMA, there may be some weeks where say there's 3 or 4 fights that I'm just like, man, these are pivotal fights that I may set up a group. Let's say there's 6 fighters in that group. I might tell Cruncher to give me at least 2 of the 6.
Yeah. So I'm depending on groups a lot. I like to look at the matchups that I think have optimal implications. So whether I think it's going to be quick finishes, it could be volatile matchups. And a lot of my lineups could have single digit performers, but I do think that, crunching for upside is the best instead of trying to crunch for median projections. So I really like groups personally. That's kind of how I construct lineups. And you already know a lot of times I like to plant my flag and get really, really aggressive. And I'll do some lineups where I'm locking one person in if I'm extremely confident. But more often than not, it works out. And then on the weeks that it doesn't, I'm on the outside looking in. So I'm okay with it just based on how I like to play. But I would definitely recommend incorporating groups for MMA.
And overall, in terms of randomness, it really doesn't change based on slate size. It for me, it may change more on the type of GPP that I'm entering. Am I entering a 150 max? Am I entering a 20 max? Am I entering a 3 max? Single entry. For me, when it comes like single entry and like head to heads, cash lineups, I pretty much build all those lineups just by hand. Where I'm using Cruncher to get into say 20 max and 150 maxes. But I think we all kind of have our own formula. I think it's a matter of finding out what formula you believe works best for you in terms of how you like to develop your lineups.
Yeah, I used to be a single entry guy. I mean, that's basically what I used to do. Or I would put single bullets or a couple bullets into the big 150s. And the more educated I became with how the pros are, constructing their lineups, I realized that it's very difficult. You know what I mean? It's extremely
Mhm.
difficult to just have that one perfect lineup that's going to take you to the promised land. So um, I nowadays I like to play 150 maxes a lot more than I used to. And I understand if you guys just want to stick to the single entries. That's how it started with me. And that's where I felt like that was my sweet spot for a while. I kind of got away from that, especially because now I want to, get exposure to certain fights. And, I definitely think that playing in a 150 max, you're not so dependent on just predicting the fights as it
Mhm.
comes down to just having the correct exposure to certain fighters.
Yeah, I mean, for me in MMA, it's about getting the correct exposure to certain fighters. I mean, you see it on every slate. You look at a slate like last week. Brian Battle was a guy that you need to have exposure to, with him
Yeah.
going out there and getting a knockout win in 44 seconds. Or maybe it's a week where you maybe think that there's going to be a fighter that maybe goes out there and just chains a bunch of takedowns where their opponents can be able to get up. I don't know. Maybe you think that's Luby Godinez this week. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the show. Of course, appreciate everyone tuning in here for the Stokastic.com MMA strategy show. And be sure to show your support for us by smashing that thumbs up button. It truly does help us a lot as well. Subscribe to Stokastic right here on YouTube. Hit that notification bell so you know when a show is live here on the channel. And if you're not currently a Stokastic Plus member and you want to get a little peek what's behind the paywall, today's free premium data and tools is MLB player projections. And of course, also, if you haven't heard, we do offer MLB night slates on DraftKings. Is also 100% free for the remainder of the season, which gives you a great chance to give our tools a shot before purchasing. Just click the DK Night Owl link below to check out tonight's tools and data. Of course, appreciate everyone tuned in here. Well, let's get right into this, Pete. Main event, bantamweight matchup, Marlon Vera taking on Dominic Cruz. As we do this show, FanDuel salaries did not come out. I logged on the FanDuel a moment ago, and salaries still were not there, but they come out during the show. We'll talk about them a little bit. Marlon Vera, 8,500 over on DraftKings, 7,500 for Dominic Cruz. We talked about this overall on Takedown City this week. And one of the questions I like in the chat, and I'm not sure if we talked about it on the show, or I know I talked about my show yesterday, is the fact of I do think my thought process would be a little different if this was a 3-round fight as opposed to a 5-round fight. I think in a 3-round fight, I would give more of an edge to Dominic Cruz because Marlon Vera is a little bit of a slow starter. I do think that the lines on the betting side, I think it's a little wide, but on the DraftKings side of the equation, Pete, I love the value here at 8,500 in Cheeto Vera.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this fight, and it's going to have a lot of my ownership just because of the salary of both fighters, right? We have 5 rounds to work with. We have Marlon Vera sitting there at 8,500, Dominic Cruz sitting there at 7,700. Marlon Vera, historically a slow starter, and that being a slow starter could allow Dominic Cruz to bank 1, 2, maybe even 3 rounds, especially if he's able to incorporate his wrestling. And Marlon Vera has shown at times to have questionable takedown defense. I do think that he has developed since then. And, Dominic Cruz isn't in his prime anymore. And it kind of seems like Marlon Vera is hitting his stride. So I really like Marlon Vera here, mid-price at 8,500. I just think it's a long time for Dominic Cruz to avoid a big shot. And he has been dropped more so of late than throughout his entire career. I mean, he built a career on evading a ton of shots and just making people miss and embarrassing them. He's been clipped, and when he's been clipped, he's been dropped. Now, the activity of Dominic Cruz could be an issue here, and it could come down to volume versus damage. If it does go the distance, I don't foresee it does, but I understand if you want to think of Dominic Cruz as one of the best underdogs on the slate because, he made a career off of going the distance and just making, having a complete performance. And a lot of his performances tend to go to the distance and tend to be decisions. So, I'm okay with getting to some Dominic Cruz. I think it's going to be competitive. My only issue with Marlon Vera at 8,500 is if, say, he has a slow start and he gets a 3rd, 4th, or 5th round stoppage, and he's not necessarily a part of the optimal lineup because he's in the mid 80s, low 90s with performance. But it's all relative to the slate and all dependent on the rest of the fights. I'm going to be getting exposure to Marlon Vera, and I'm picking him to beat Dominic Cruz this weekend.
Looking over the prize pick side of the equations, 100.5 significant strikes landed for Marlon Vera is his number, 107.5 fancy score over there. You know, if this thing goes 5 rounds with his volume, you would expect Marlon to probably eclipse that number. But the one thing is Dom Cruz has always been a guy that, even though he's been dropped in his past couple of fights, he is a guy that his defense has always been there as to elude shots.
Yeah, I mean, but I tell you what, like timing and having good reaction time when you're younger is different than when you are, at the latter parts of your career. And I think that he has missed a step in a little bit. And that's why I'm picking Marlon Vera. If anybody wants to, make a case for Dominic Cruz to survive, he's shown that he can have a complete 25-minute performance in the past. I do think that 25 minutes is a very long time to avoid the power of Marlon Vera. And, the wrestling upside for Cruz, 7,700 is great, but, Vera's got some sneaky submissions as well. So it's a Vera pick for me.
And I would say on the cash side of the equation, if you're looking for kind of a cheaper cash play to rack up points, I don't think Dominic Cruz is where I would go. There's some other 7,000 options that intrigue me a little bit more to get to if you're looking to save a little money in terms of the cash aspect of it. Let's move over to the co-main event. We got David Onama taking on Nate Landwehr, 8,600 for David Onama, 7,600 for Nate Landwehr. Nate Landwehr, 2-2 in the UFC. Of course, David Onama is 2-1 in the UFC. We saw David a month ago against Garrett Armfield. Was not the banner performance that I think we expected to see out of him. James Krause, as head coach, after that fight was over, did indicate that there were some issues during that camp in terms of the weight cut. Of course, he had lost the fight. Then he was off the card. Then he was back on the card. So they had a tough weight cut, and maybe that did play a little bit into his performance.
Yeah, I tell you what, I really like David Onama as far as an upside standpoint, like in the division, and I do think that he presents unique skills in all areas. So dangerous striker, good wrestler. The last performance against Garrett Armfield is a little bit of a red flag. But I can understand having a poor weight cut and a poor performance. It's just I expected more. I expected more from him, and I don't know. That's why I really like David Onama here at 8,600, but at the same time, I think that Nate Landwehr with the correct game plan, who has a great wealth of experience, could put together something. I just don't trust Nate Landwehr to I don't trust his durability. He's been knocked out against Herbert Burns and Julian Erosa. I think David Onama on paper should be able to knock out Nate Landwehr, but if Nate's able to press him and smother him a little bit, incorporate some takedowns, we could see this become a very, very competitive featherweight bout. I like David Onama mid-price at 8,600, though. I do. It's just that last performance against Garrett Armfield makes me kind of scratch my head a little bit. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to cross off Nate Landwehr just because of what he has done and how many times he can come back, from the jaws of defeat and end up putting together a performance. And not every fighter's different. Not every fighter is the same when they're getting backed up. And if David Onama is getting pressed backwards, I wonder how he's going to be. But it's a David Onama pick at 8,600 for me.
And should note that first fight in 10 months for Nate Landwehr. Last fight was that win there against Klein, which has aged very beautifully for him. He fought a lot of tough competition leading into the UFC. David Onama, look, when you talk to James Krause, he raves about David Onama. It's a guy that he's worked with for a long time. Let's move over to our next matchup. Will be a female matchup between Jasmine and Jasmine. 8,700 for Jasmine, 7,500 for Jasmine. Yasmin, her first fight in exactly 1 year when she steps into the cage on Saturday. Her last fight coming back in Combate Global. She was initially scheduled to meet Isabella Nunez on this fight card, and 5 of her 8 victories are via first round stoppage. And for Jasmine on the other side, it's her UFC debut. She's coming off win back in April at Cage FS. She has won 7 straight after she started her pro run 6-4.
Bro, I got to tell you, I don't know who the hell you're talking about when you're saying Yasmin. I don't know. I know him by Lucindo and Jaragui. So I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Yasmin Jauregui. I think that she's going to get it done this weekend. Extremely low level fight. Not a fight that I would be prioritizing as far as parlays. And it's a fight where you have to be very careful because the fight film is pretty limited on Lucindo. What I have seen from Yasmin Jauregui is that she has excellent boxing, very good boxing, and good pace. Pace pressure in boxing is something I think could break a lot of women within this division. Lucindo really likes to get takedowns and, get top position. But I think that the defensive skills of Yasmin Jauregui at 8,700 is going to be enough for her to keep it on the feet and punish her. Now, there's just an interesting stat I kind of wanted to bring up, and I shared this with you yesterday. You and I were kind of going back and forth. Is just how often the 8,700 fighter has been in the optimal lineup. Now, obviously, it's completely slate dependent, card dependent, and you can't just look at salaries all the time to determine if they're going to enter your lineup or whatnot. But since the start of May, the $8,700 fighter has been in the optimal lineup 54% of the time. So I don't know if it's a fact of it's just weird. It seems to be a sweet spot for, optimal lineups. So it's just something I wanted to put out there. And I'm definitely going to be in agreement with it at 8,700 for Yasmin Jauregui.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that when people are trying to get away from those 9,000 options, and we kind of talk about that mid 8K range of potentially being a little bit of a sweet spot to find some of these fighters in there. I mean, look, one of the things of Yasmin with this being her first fight in over a year, that's always kind of a concern to me, Pete. I mean, obviously fighters are going to deal with that different there, and Lucindo on the other side. Fellow UFC debut. She got, didn't get off to the greatest of starts in her career, but she's turned things around there. So we'll see what happens with there. Next up, we got a matchup at 205 pounds. Devin Clark, a underdog here at 7,800. Azamat at 8,400. Azamat, undefeated fighter at 11-0. Won his UFC debut with a third round stoppage victory. And Devin Clark's second training camp now at Team Elevation after being at Jackson Wink for a long time. And I know yesterday he kind of talked about, really he feels like he's finding his groove here at Team Elevation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this matchup for sure because Murzakinov's a guy where I was okay with fading him a little bit with Tafon and Chukwe, and man, did I feel smart until Azamat Murzakinov landed that vicious flying knee. And, I thought that his cardio was questionable. He's super, super patient. And sometimes it seems like he was okay with, he was on his way to losing that fight, right? It seemed like he was just coasting to a decision loss until that one big knee. So it completely threw me off. And I was like, all right. The issue with Devin Clark is obviously his durability. I do think that for the division, he has a decent motor. Everybody within this division is going to tire more often than not. But the fact that he's big, he's been in there against some talented fighters, and that durability hasn't really reared its ugly head. I mean, yes, he was submitted against Anthony Smith, but the Ion Cutelaba fight was something I was like, yeah, Devin Clark's getting finished. And he didn't. He got ragdolled, but he didn't get finished. So the fact that he picked up a TKO win over William Knight, pretty undersized fighter for the division, and also lasted against Alonzo Menefield is like, all right, maybe Devin Clark has improved and developed over the years. And it's a spot where the 7,800 fighter, just like the 8,700 fighter, finds its way into the optimal lineup. Since May, it's been in the optimal lineup 54% of the time. So that's tied for the $8,700 fighter. So I just find it interesting. I'm not as confident in Devin Clark. I'm going to be picking him to win just because I've seen more of him at the UFC level, and I didn't really like the cardio of Azamat Murzakinov, but it's a Devin Clark decision or it's an Azamat KO in round one. That's kind of how I see this going. So this is a fight where the collective optimal percentage is pretty high, and I'm going to be targeting it and making it a priority.
Over on Prize Picks, the fight time on this one's 10 minutes. I like the over.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, you like Devin Clark and I do too. So that makes sense. I am still worried about Azamat's just versatility of being able to strike, having good submission skills, decent wrestling. I don't think he can wrestle for long periods of time with Devin Clark, but I think that he can, defend enough to force him on the feet. So we shall see.
Of course, today is the return of the NFL preseason. I mean, it officially came back a couple days ago, but gets into full swing here tonight. And we are here. We've got you covered for preseason DFS projections as we're giving them to you for only $5 for a limited time. So grab them now. You can find them in a link to claim your $5 preseason projections in description below, or use promo code TUA at checkout. Of course, today at 6 p.m. Eastern time, we've got NFL preseason live before law to get you ready for tonight's preseason action. And of course, with the preseason here, I will not be here on Saturday. Greg will be filling in for me for live before lock. You basically, you don't have me on live before lock for the next couple of weeks with the preseason. But before I head to the stadium on Saturday, I will do some office hours for our premium members. So you got any questions on Saturday morning? I'm probably going to hop in there probably around, say, 11 o'clock East Coast time on Saturday morning, do some office hours to answer any questions you have there. But yeah, I'll be at the stadium 2:30, Pete, and it'll probably be about 100 degrees outside. It'll be nice and hot.
Nice. I know you're excited for the season, and I've been starting my NFL research, so I can't wait.
I was watching Hard Knocks this morning. You know, the best part may be Coach Glenn and Coach Staley trash talking each other as they're calling plays.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. You know what's crazy is I've always lacked with the Hard Knocks, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, Staley's on offense. On defense is Glenn, and they are just trash talking each other the whole time.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I'll tell you what, some of the best moments in sports is when you can just trash talk your teammates and, you know, have that little competitive back and forth. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, think of Bobby Green. Bobby Green loves to sit there and trash talk his opponent there. Let's move over to the next matchup. I don't know really how much we have to really go in dive deep in this one, since we talked about this matchup last week. Caroline Lipsky and Priscilla Cachoeira, 8,700 for Lipsky, 7,500 for Priscilla Cachoeira. Of course, we all know what happened last week. Lipsky missed weight, ultimately pulled from the fight on fight day. Now the fight's happening here. It's at 135 pounds, not 125 pounds. But you know, I don't think there's too much we can really add on this one, but I'm scared to say this, but Priscilla Cachoeira is kind of someone that I feel like in single builds will be someone that will be a natural click for me.
Yeah. So, as far as contrarian pick, I think Ariane Lipsky is going to be an extremely contrarian pick, and probably a leverage spot, because all the things negatively going on with her, especially if the audience pays attention and everybody that's playing MMA DFS, we'll have to see how the ownership comes out. But it's really hard for me to want to back Ariane Lipsky. Like when it comes out that you had COVID, and then you've been having some issues within camp, and then you miss weight. I don't know, man. Like when your fight gets pulled from the card and now they just push it back 1 week, it's really hard for me to want to back you, other than just a salary play and to get different. So I'm actually flipping. I liked Ariane Lipsky last week, and I don't like her anymore. I don't. I'm going to go with Priscilla Cachoeira, something I really didn't think that I would, say too often inside the UFC, because of her defensive, like, just lack of skill. Like, she really just gets hit way too often. In most of her fights, she doesn't respect her opponent's power and she walks him down, and that leads to her getting, hit like a punching bag. And then when that happens, she is either going to weather the storm and then start firing back en route to picking up a TKO KO win, or she's just going to lose a dominant decision. So Ariane Lipsky could easily take her down, or work towards taking her down, and expose the big Achilles heel of Priscilla Cachoeira's game, and that's her, submission defense. I don't foresee that happening. I think Priscilla is going to bully her in the cage, and she's going to be my favorite underdog on the entire slate, truthfully. And I hate saying that, but in women's MMA, where underdogs hit a little bit more often than some other divisions, it seems like a no-brainer. I got to go with Priscilla Cachoeira.
Next up, we've got Bruno Silva taking on Gerald Meerschaert. Bruno Silva, 9,000. GM3, he is 7,200. Mentioned about this on Takedown City. The big note to take away with Gerald Meerschaert leading into this fight camp is the fact that he has been training down at Killcliff FC, formerly known as Sanford MMA. A long time training at Rufus Sport. Also, he's done some work there in Chicago with Bilal Muhammad to get ready, but he has been down in South Florida this one. But anyone who's watched Takedown City already, I think they already know, Pete, how you feel.
Yeah, I really like Bruno Silva. I just do. I think that this is a spot where he's going to knock out Gerald Meerschaert. Now, does it happen in round one? That's where having some ownership on these other 9,000 fighters could actually work out, because I don't know if it comes in round one. I think it happens just because of Gerald Meerschaert's his striking level is not near Bruno Silva at all. He needs to incorporate takedowns desperately. And I think that from a submission standpoint, Meerschaert's always live to pull off a submission finish. I just don't see it happening. I just really don't. I think that Bruno Silva is one of the safest plays on the slate, and you don't hear me say the word safe too often. I do think that Mahmoud Muradov was supposed to walk right through Gerald Meerschaert, and Meerschaert's toughness proved otherwise, and he was able to, weather the storm and come back in that fight. I think the UFC, they were surprised by that. And there's no way that I'm not picking Bruno Silva in this spot. He's going to be one of my most exposed high-priced fighters at 9,000. Seems like the slate and all the viewers agree with me and you, because he's going to come with some hefty ownership. But I think it's warranted. My only issue is, does it come in round two, not in round one, maybe even round three? And that's what's going to leave him on the outside of the optimal lineup. So I'm not going to try to be a fortune teller here. I'm just going to say that I think that he's an extremely strong play.
Yeah, right now we got him projected at 35% ownership over on DraftKings. So I mean, he's, I think a good play. I mean, the question I think really becomes is that 6.5 fight time number over Prize Picks. I think becomes an interesting play over there. Whether or not you think you can get the stoppage comes in round one. Of course, speaking of Prize Picks, they are the sponsor of the Stokastic MMA strategy show. They got their prop based contests over there, and of course, when you sign up, use that promo code OSMO. They got instant first match deposit of up to $100. And Pete, one of the props that stuck out to me is a prop that I already kind of mentioned here. I like the over 10-minute fight time on Azamat taking on Clark there. The other fight time I like is the under 10 minutes on Josh Quinlan.
Yeah, I like that one. I do like that one. The Devin Clark one is tough just because you're really banking on his durability. I think he's shown, rewind 4 years. I would say, no, I don't agree with you. But from what we've seen, I think I might have to agree with you on both of those.
There wasn't a ton of props as we sit here on a Thursday that stuck out to me. There's some other ones that I'm monitoring. I want to see where they kind of go here. Like one of those is the fight time on O'Day Osborne and Tyson Nam at 10 minutes. Right now, that's a lean to the over for me. I think there's a lot of people that might be looking at the under because of their two fighting styles. But right now, and I feel like I can get a better number than 10 by the time Saturday gets here. So that's why I wouldn't go there now. Some other ones that potentially I would say, I want to pay. Where does the Lupi Godinez takedown prop go? Currently, that's sitting at 3. That's a big number, but she could score a good amount of takedowns. Ariana Lipsky at 63.5 significant strikes. If that thing goes 15 minutes, I think that's an overplay. Priscilla Cachoeira is not exactly very good at blocking punches.
Yeah, I mean, she's not, but I'm telling you,
when your strikes absorbed per minute is 7, that's not good, bro. That's not good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the fights just kind of just have that as an overblown stat, but I do understand. And I don't know. I just don't know what to expect from Lipsky with all these red flags surrounding her. I'm just obviously picking Priscilla Cachoeira, so I'm probably going to be light on any Lipsky prop.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's just one of those weeks. Sometimes there's on a Thursday, I sit there and say, man, there's a ton of juicy props I love over Prize Picks, and this is just one of those weeks. I kind of want to see how these numbers play out over the next couple of days before. But definitely the under 10 minutes on Josh Quinlan is the one that sticks out to me the most. Let's move over to our next matchup. It's a female matchup between Angela Hill and Lupe Godinez. It's at 120 pounds here. Lupe Godinez is 9,000. Angela Hill is 7,000. Obviously, we know with Lupe what she's able to do with her takedowns. Angela Hill, veteran of the game. I do wonder, kind of, are we starting to maybe get to the end of the road of Angela Hill in the UFC? I think it's more of a question for me in terms of looking at it from a GPP perspective, Pete, is the takedown aspect of Lupe Godinez. Is this one of the things where she could chain wrestle throughout this fight?
Yeah, I mean, that's if you're backing Lupe, you're expecting her to land multiple takedowns, because if she's going to be on the feet, I think she can compete with Angela Hill, but I don't think it's her best path to victory, clearly. And I think that she's at risk of losing the fight the longer it's on the feet and at distance. That's where Angela Hill does great work, and I do think that she's somewhat underrated from a striking standpoint, just because of her lack of power. Hill has exceptional volume, and that volume always leads to close fights. So Lupe really needs to get inside. A lot easier said than done. And she needs to test Angela Hill's takedown defense. It has improved over the years. I still don't think she's going to be able to stop all the takedowns. I think one takedown around is not safe, but I think it's like a decent floor for Lupe Godinez. The issue is at 9,200, what happens if this goes to distance and she doesn't have the best success? Like, I don't foresee her getting 8 out of 8 like she did against Ariana Carnelossi. I am picking Lupe Godinez just because I think she's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. She has decent hands, and that wrestling in her past performance, man, was it a breakout performance. She looked exceptional. I said to you when we were watching that fight, I was like, man, it's almost, if she could do this to other people, it's like she could be a champ. You know what I mean? It's like what Carla Esparza should be doing to everybody. And I think that this is a massive step up of competition, especially because Angela Hill is a notable name. The volume and the fact that Hill has fought many fighters similar to Lupe Godinez is going to make me get exposure to the underdog, Angela Hill. It's a fight I'm circling. I'm picking Lupe Godinez. I think the winner of this fight has some decent upside. But like, the one issue is where I look at Lupe Godinez's performance against Loma Lookboonmee. And, she went 5 of 12 in the takedown department. And you're like, wow, 5 takedowns. She must have killed it with her score. She only scored 85. And 85 is not going to cut it at 9,200. I'm going to say that Lupe's a strong play this week, but be careful. Don't go overweight on the exposure. I think on a week like this, there are plenty of 9,000 appealing options. And I'll have spread out exposure, but I'm picking Lupe to win.
Chad brings up the point. He says, does it mean anything that both camps agree to move the fight up? Seems like preparation routine would make that really difficult for most fighters. This fight was supposed to initially take place in October. Angela Hill does a lot of her training in San Diego, which probably plays a little bit into it. And here's the other thing. You tell fighters, hey, you can get paid 2 months before you're supposed to. Get some motivation. Let's just be honest about it. Like real talk.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think that it's a red flag. It's quite odd, but I understand. And I think it's mainly due to, just trying to get as many California fighters on the card. And, San Diego definitely plays a role because this is a weak card. So that's why you got, Marlon Vera, Dominic Cruz, Cali guys. You got Angela Hill, you got some other California based fighters as well. So I think it was strategic. It was a smart move by the UFC and, even Cynthia Calvillo. So we're talking about, just the area and trying to get, especially when you're trying to sell tickets. Like when I looked at this, I thought it was an Apex card.
It very well could be a situation that they felt maybe Angela Hill could move some tickets in that building. I mean, look, it's the reality of it. I mean, look, I'm the same way with you. When I saw this card, I thought it was an Apex card. Mm-hmm. Like I knew it was in San Diego because I interviewed Tyson Nam. But I was like, man, like when we look at the fight card on paper, you're like, man, it kind of looks like an Apex card. That don't look like a card that we're trying to sell tickets to get people to get into the building.
Yeah, it's weird, man. It's weird what cards are, the level of the UFC in 2022. It's just, it's an odd thing.
Next up, we got a heavyweight matchup between Martin and Lucas. Martin 8,900. Lucas is 7,300. Pete, what's your take?
This is such. I'm not in love with this fight at all. I really like Martin Boudet if I have to pick somebody. But in general, I just feel like this is a sloppy fight, like just a very sloppy fight where both fighters are pretty similar. Martin Boudet, decent striking, decent aggression. I can see this playing out a lot in the cage. I'm going to be getting exposure to both fighters just because it's heavyweight, and whether it's due to fatigue or landing a big shot, oftentimes we see this go, inside the distance. So it finishes inside the distance. But every now and then we get one of these sloppy heavyweight fights where they're just leaning against each other. And that's kind of what I'm seeing here. I might have to check and monitor ownership. If it's going to be extremely popular, I'll probably go elsewhere. For the most part, I'll be neutral. But this is a fight where I'm just going to pick Martin Boudet. And I don't know, man. I just don't really enjoy this fight, if I'm being honest.
So you don't want a 46% Martin Boudet?
Oh my gosh, really? Yeah, I'm probably going to be a lot lighter than that. You know what I mean? And that's a little crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely out there. Move over to the next matchup. A matchup we broke down a couple of weeks ago. Cynthia Calvillo and Nia Nunez. The fight was ultimately canceled. I forget whether it was either weigh-in day or fight day. Nia Nunez had come down sick, so the fight did not happen here. 7,900 for Nia Nunez, 8,300 for Cynthia Calvillo. The biggest, I guess, talking point for me when it comes to Nia Nunez that really kind of surprised me. She has not parted ways with ATT, while her wife has.
And weird dynamic.
That's that just made me think about so obviously, Amanda had been in camp the last, 6-8 weeks. So she was basically in camp at the same time. So how is this working? Were you at Team Nunez gym? And then it's see you, honey, I'm going over to ATT now.
Yeah, I don't really understand. I don't understand the dynamic, but I will tell you that, it's being a part of ATT. If you still are a part of it, it's going to prepare you like no other. The level of competition inside the gym is fantastic. The coaching staff is great. You got phenomenal wrestling, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, great striking. You just have so many good training partners where a lot of fighters that kind of bounce around, like a Cynthia Calvillo, they're looking for an American Top Team. And guess what? There are very rare gyms out there similar to American Top Team. An interesting fight because Calvillo, if she goes out there with the correct game plan, could emulate what Mackenzie Dern did in Nina Ansaroff's previous performance. Simple takedown, work towards a submission finish. And that's what Cynthia Calvillo was so good at early within her career. And you start to look towards improving your striking over the years, and you get away from what brought you to the dance. That's my worry here. And Nina Ansaroff showing, decent level of getting back to her feet and even preventing some takedowns against Tatiana Suarez is where I'm like, okay, maybe it's in there. She defended 9 takedowns against Tatiana Suarez, 8 against Claudia Gadelha, 10 against Randa Marcos. I'm going to be leading in Nina. I keep calling her Ansaroff, Nina Nunez's direction. And I don't like it. I don't love it, but it's a fight where I'm going to just be, sprinkling her in some of my lineups. If Cynthia Calvillo goes out there and subs her in 2 rounds, it wouldn't shock me. I'm not planting a flag with this fight, but I will be picking Nina Nunez.
So what you're saying is you'd rather take American Top Team over Syndicate MMA?
I think we know where I lie with that. Yes.
Just throwing the nugget out there.
I think we know exactly where my opinion on that issue.
And for those who are not aware, Cynthia, she does majority of her training now at Syndicate MMA. She's kind of like a lot of fighters that are in the UFC now, where they're splitting their camp between the UFC PI and some other gym in Vegas. That's how a lot of fighters are doing it now. And look, it's obviously a lot of fighters that either go to Extreme Couture or go to Syndicate, mostly going to Extreme Couture. But because of the advantages of having the PI, a lot of fighters have gone there. And this is one of those fights in terms of GPP, Pete. I just think I'll be less on the field on.
I think we found my new name. I'm going to change my username to GPP Pete. That I think, yeah, I'm going to be a little light on this just because I think it's going to go the distance. If a finish occurs, I would think it's a Cynthia Calvillo submission, but who the heck knows? Because Amanda Nunes, I doubted her against Juliana Pena, and it was a donkey call, and I admit it. Nina could be better than ever right now, or she could not be because she's working with an American Top Team and not specifically just with Amanda. So we shall see. It's a lean towards Nunes.
And looking at what we have as ownership, I wouldn't be under the field with what we're seeing right now for Cynthia Calvillo. Next up, we got a match between Gabriel Benitez and Charlie Ontiveros. 9,300 for Gabriel, 6,900 for Charlie.
Okay. Don't be shocked if Charlie Ontiveros knocks out Gabriel Benitez. That's all I'm going to say, because the durability of Gabriel Benitez is always in question. And for a long part of his career, it wasn't. And the one thing I will say is he's fought better competition, and he's a proven dog where he can go out there and fight bell to bell. Even if he's having a bad round, he can come from behind and he can work towards getting a finish. He has a sneaky submission skill set as well, a very, very good guillotine. Doesn't go to the takedown well, which I think is the easiest path to victory against Charlie Ontiveros. He did it one time against Humberto Bondanai, and that worked out great. But he's usually the better striker, and he can be the better striker here against Charlie Ontiveros. The thing with Charlie Ontiveros is he's so dynamic, and he comes from a karate background. So obviously you already know that I'm going to be loving getting to some exposure for Charlie Ontiveros just because of that lead leg side kick, that lead leg axe kick. He knocked Steve Garcia down twice and had him hurt on multiple occasions as well. And when he's the hammer, he's fine, but he might be the worst rusty nail out there, where if you pressure him or you throw anything at him, he's going to crumble, and his durability is terrible. So I'm making a decent amount of my lineups with Charlie Ontiveros because I don't think that, not so often do we have a 6,000 fighter that could break the slate. I think that this is a week where people need to get some exposure there. But with all that being said, Gabriel Benitez could walk right through Charlie Ontiveros and make this look pretty easy. So I know I'm kind of saying that Ontiveros has a great skill set to win. I just think that Gabriel Benitez isn't as reckless as Steve Garcia. Garcia is so reckless where it left a lot of openings for Charlie Ontiveros to capitalize on. I don't think Gabriel Benitez is going to do the same. So I'm picking Gabriel Benitez at 9,300, but I think this fight breaks the slate one side or the other.
Next up, we got a flyweight matchup between Ode Osborne and Tyson Nam. Ode Osborne, 8,800, 7,400 for Tyson Nam. I talked to Tyson Nam about, let's say about two and a half weeks ago at this point. First fight in 19 months. He's had several injuries that have ultimately led to why it's taken him this long to get back into the cage. He was supposed to have a couple of matchups that ultimately did not come together here. And, stylistically, I think, Pete, this should be a fun fight. I think it's a fight that should play out on the feet. What I mentioned earlier in the show, as a cash play, there were some fighters I liked maybe a little more in cash than Dominic Cruz. Tyson Nam is one of them.
I don't hate Tyson Nam, except for his lack of volume. That's the only thing that I don't really like. And, I can back it up by saying that he has thrown a lot, but his accuracy hasn't been the best. He threw 193 strikes against Matt Schnell. He landed 58, threw 153 at Kai Kara France, landed 50, threw 170 at Sergio Pettis. Man, that was a long time ago. Landed 40. He's so capable of spoiling anybody. And just, being an underdog that breaks the slate because of that massive power in that right hand. And I always can recall back in the day when Eduardo Dantas was looking to stay active and took a fight outside the UFC against Tyson, outside Bellator, and took a fight against Tyson Nam, and Tyson Nam knocked him out. And I was like, who the hell is this Tyson Nam guy? Because I held Eduardo Dantas in such high regard. So as far as 7,000, fighters that can break the slate, I'm probably going to be a little bit aggressive on Tyson Nam just because I think Ode's very good. But from what I'm seeing on tape, the way he holds his hands, the way that, yes, he has head movement and he's long and he's dangerous. I think a a right hand from Tyson Nam is extremely live to knock out Ode Osborne. This is a fight where I'm going to be getting to some ownership. I do think that a decision can occur where Ode Osborne just outpoints Tyson Nam. But I'm telling you, man, Tyson Nam, you cannot count him out. He could get knocked out this weekend because he's old now. But he's always capable of ruining a parlay and upsetting a big favorite.
You're calling Tyson Nam old?
Well, not old, older. It's for the division. He's light, you know?
Yeah, he's 38 years old. I mean, he's still younger than me.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not old, but like for the division, you know, you could be 45, 50 fighting at heavyweight and light heavyweight. Like to be a lighter weight class guy and be approaching 40 is a rarity.
He's been around a long time. It's funny you mentioned about that Eduardo Dantas. That was like one of the first big stories I broke. I got like the first interview with Tyson Nam, because for those who are not aware, then there was a contract issue with Bellator, and Tyson Nam was trying to get fights, and Bellator was blocking it. And it was not a great time. It should have been a great time in Tyson Nam's career, but there was just a lot of things behind the scenes that weren't going well for him. Of course, you hear me talking about the ownership projections that we have for Saturday's UFC San Diego. And when you want to get access to those ownership projections and so much more, you got to sign up for a Stokastic Plus Platinum Pass. Includes everything we have over there at Stokastic.com, from player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, our premium Discord channel, and so much more. And we have got an offer. If you are a new user of Stokastic Plus, as you can save 50% off your first week of any Stokastic Plus pass, all you got to do is click the link in the video description below to activate the offer, or you can head over to our join page at Stokastic.com. Use that promo code MMA Strategy Show, all caps, one word, MMA Strategy Show, for 50% off your first week of any weekly package. So if you want to play MMA DFS, sign up for that MMA weekly pass. And for new users only, you can get 50% off your first week. And of course, Fantasy Cruncher is something you would need to add to your account. Highly recommend adding Fantasy Cruncher to your account. And of course, when you hit that promo code, that lets people at Stokastic know you heard about us right here on the MMA Strategy Show, and we appreciate everyone that's taking advantage of that code. Since we run that promo code, it does truly does help us out a lot over here with the MMA Strategy Show. Next up, we got another match that we were supposed to have last week: Josh Quinlan, Jason Witt. This week, salaries are a little different, a little more pricey to get to Josh Quinlan this week. 9,100, 7,100 for Jason Witt. Of course, this fight was ultimately canceled by the Nevada State Athletic Commission due to findings in a drug test. Jeff Novitzky came out and said USADA has no issues with it. California is going to allow the fight to happen here. What are you laughing about over there, bro?
It's just such a circus. It's a circus,
dude. Like if Nevada says, "Hey, we want to look some more of this drug test before we license you to fight," but you know what? Look, you know, some people in the DFS industry might say we love rostering cheaters.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But I mean, seriously, something's up with Quinlan, and you know, he paid the price for it. Obviously, it's serving the suspension for PEDs, but still got some picograms or whatever coursing through those veins. And,
I mean, like, I've interviewed Josh before.
Yeah.
After his Contender Series fight last year and the positive news came out, he had a lengthy post where he flat admitted he did it.
Were you going to deny it? I mean, I guess people could.
Have you not followed this sport? Like, seriously, have you not failed drug tests?
Listen, you lose so much credibility when you do not own up to it. Like, it's, you know what I mean? Like, come on now.
Look, if you did a case study of 100 failed drug tests in MMA, how many of them you think admitted they took the banned substance?
Yeah, I mean,
10%. I bet.
I don't know. It's weird. I feel like we don't hear about it too often. We have heard about it a lot, but
well, I think the thing is, now in the UFC, you know, you're getting drug tested at any waking moment. Like, I don't know, Kamaru Usman put it on his Instagram today saying, "Hey guys, you know my whereabouts. Do you really need to wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning?"
Yeah, you know,
bro, I feel bad for these USADA drug testers. They're just working for the man, bro. They're working for the man. But like, do you want to be that guy that goes and not, like, could you imagine you go knock on It would be a scary guy you would not want.
Francis Ngannou.
Dude, could you imagine waking up Francis Ngannou at 5 o'clock in the morning? Do you have a death wish?
Yeah, right. I mean, you got a job to do, right? And
No, bro. No, if I'm working your side, Pete, you're my boss, and you go, hey, Jason, I need you to see Francis Ngannou at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. I go, oh, hell no, I'm not. You go see him.
You put in your notice right then and there.
I go, I will wait till 9 o'clock in the morning to go see him.
Yeah, I got COVID. I got COVID, boss. I'm not coming in. I'm sick today. It's not good. I can't make it. I'm sorry.
Could you
imagine waking up the Diaz brothers at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, no, that's something I'd worry about. Just from do
you start going down their Instagram?
They're already up, Jason. It's 5. That's too early for those boys. They're already up.
What if you went on said fighter's Instagram and you knew they love guns? Would you be scared to knock on that door at 5 a.m.?
I ain't scared to knock on anybody's door. You might be scared, Mr. Tampa Bay Buccaneer reporter over there, but I ain't scared to knock on anybody's door. Yeah.
Dude, I don't want to knock on someone's door at 10 o'clock in the morning. I hate when these fools come to my house trying to sell whatever goddamn thing they're trying to sell me. God bless security cameras that I can talk to you through a microphone.
Yeah, I mean,
God bless it.
Yeah. Anyways.
Hold on, you don't have a security camera? What stone age are you living in?
With all that being said, Josh Quinlan going to be one of my most exposed fighters on the slate. I think that he's extremely live to knock out Jason Witt. Now, I think his takedown defense is a little skeptical, a little, inconsistent, and that is Jason Witt's best path to victory.
Mm-hmm.
It's just in order to take him down, he has to absorb some shots, and I don't necessarily think that he can, because Josh Quinlan is a knockout monster, and that's why the UFC, despite popping, they still want him in there. I'm surprised at how many people pop and still have a job come Monday. But Josh Quinlan, they want to see what he's made of, and he looks like a very, very dangerous knockout threat within this division. And he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but it's the wrestling where I'm a little worried, just because Jason Witt's a very high level wrestler. Like, he really is. It's just, I don't think his chin's there. Even if he lands 5 takedowns at any moment, one shot from Quinlan from the jaws of defeat lands, I think he knocks out Jason Witt. So Quinlan going to be my most exposed fighter. With that being said, Jason Witt, as far as takedown upside, he's kind of in that Lupita Godinez category where, like, yeah, they have high upside with the takedowns, but just be careful.
So something I want to read to you that Josh Quinlan said following the news of his positive drug test back in October last year, just to get your take from a fighter's perspective.
Okay.
Goes to my friends, family, and fans. I am who I am. I strive to be authentic and genuine in my life's pursuits and with the people around me.
Mm-hmm.
I did not try to hide my shortcomings. I take full responsibility for my actions and the decisions I've made. Martial arts has blessed me with so much, and I responded by going astray in the pursuit to be great. Success in life doesn't carry any value if you compromise your morals and values to get there. I was trying to be content with the effort I put forth, knowing I did it with the energy God blessed me with. We are powerful beyond measure and a new creation every day. I will be grateful for the life that unfolds, knowing I am walking with Christ. I'm not done yet.
Okay, bro. Jason,
there's a part I want to get. There's a part I want to get to. It's the next part. I apologize to my opponents that feel I have an unfair advantage in the cage. I apologize to the people that have looked at me for an example and inspiration.
Blah, blah, blah. I'm a little cheater and I don't respect them at all. And that's basically it. Zero respect.
But the reason I brought that up is I think that there will be people that are going to be looking at him on Saturday going, was potentially things that he took in his body a product of why he had such a great performance.
Hey, if it is, Jason Witt, bring me to the promised land, because I'm going to be having some lineups with him. And, a lot of times when people are searching for some other substances to, elevate their performance, it's a lack of confidence a lot of times. So maybe he's more humanized without it. And I don't know. I can't really tell you if that, he has power, but maybe that power was a result of the banned substance, not 100%, but it definitely helped him throughout his career.
Loving the comments. One person is saying Pete the Heat is the security camera. And then the next comment is, I think fighters would be more scared of Pete Sr. knocking on their door.
That's right. My boy Jesse. What's up, Jesse? And Jesse knows my pops. So, yep, that is the truth. You definitely don't want Mr. Rogers knocking on your door. We got a decent amount of people in here. We appreciate you guys. Again, a low-level card, but you guys keep coming back week after week. If you guys could do us a favor, hit that like button. Let's get it over 175 this week. 175 would be a good number.
Our first fight of the night is going to be Yusuf Zalal take on Damon Blackshear, 8,200 for Yusuf Zalal, 8,000 for Blackshear. Yusuf Zalal finally coming down to 135. This is something that he had, I remember, I want to say, man, a year ago, he told me he was going to go down to 35, but he just kept getting opportunities at 45. So, interesting to see what he looks here at 35 and how he can look here. And, man, I hate to say this, man. If he can really utilize those takedowns, this could be a pivotal matchup in terms of GPP lineups.
I think that this is an interesting fight. And the reason is because Yusuf Zalal has shown a lot inside the octagon against some pretty stiff competition. He's 3-3 inside the UFC, but we have Damon Blackshear, who is a very talented wrestler, and that seems to be Yusuf Zalal's Achilles heel. Yeah, he's good offensively with his takedowns, but defensively, I do think he can get controlled, and it takes away from his best skill set. His best skill set is on the feet with some dynamic movement. Incorporating takedowns is an interesting, wrinkle that he's kind of developed throughout the past couple of years. I mean, he attempted 17 takedowns against Sean Woodson, landed only 2 of them, but I think that was matchup dependent because of the length of Sean Woodson. I'm going to be picking Yusuf Zalal here, but as far as underdogs, when I talk about takedown upside, Damon Blackshear is pretty good, and he has very, very good takedowns, former champ as well. So we're talking about a high level fighter. I do think that there is some, a big difference within their striking. I think Yusuf is going to be the better striker of the two. It comes down to the strength, and the fact Yusuf has competed at featherweight makes me want to pick him just ever so slightly and lean in his direction. But I mean, 8,200, 8,000 fight, we talk about each week. It sneaks into the optimal lineup. And you talk about an underdog with takedown upside, it's hard not to get some exposure to Damon Blackshear.
Let's get into our straight up fight picks here, not DFS related. Let's start with that first fight of the night. Give me Yusuf Zalal.
Yeah, I'm going Zalal.
Quinlan and Witt. Right now, to me, it's Josh Quinlan more. Just Jason Witt, things just have not gone well for him.
Yeah, it's a Quinlan pick.
The next up matchup, Ode Osborne, Tyson Nam. I will go with my first underdog of the night. Give me Tyson Nam.
Okay, I can see it happening. I definitely can see it happening. I'm still going to go with Osborne, though.
Gabriel Benitez, Charlie Ontiveros. I will go Benitez.
I will as well, Benitez.
Give me underdog number 2 and Nina Nunez.
Yeah, I'm going to go Nina Nunez.
Then I'll go Martin Boudet.
Lupita
Godinez. I know we're both on Bruno Silva. I don't even think I have to ask you there.
Yep.
Underdog number 3, Priscilla Cachoeira.
Cachoeira for me.
Underdog number 4, Devin Clark.
Okay, I'm going to go Devin Clark.
Then the underdog train has come to a screeching halt. It gives me Jasmine to win there in the battle of Jasmine versus Jasmine.
Yeah, I'm going to go Jaragui.
David Onama. And I will go Marlon Vera. We'll get to Sam's questions here. Top 2 cash.
I'm going to go with Marlon Vera just because of the price. And then I'm going to go with Bruno Silva.
I was like, is he not going to say Bruno Silva?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go Bruno Silva.
Top 2 GPPs.
It's tough. As far as GPP fights, I'm going to go Gabriel Benitez against Charlie Ontiveros.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to say the Nate Landwehr, David Onama. That was really sticking out to me.
Top 2 underdogs.
Priscilla Cachoeira is going to be underdog number 1. Underdog number 2 going to be Devin Clark for me.
I agree with you there. Favorite inside the distance.
Bruno Silva.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Top leverage plays.
Ariana Lipsky, Charlie Ontiveros, Angela Hill.
I'm looking at ownership. Maybe see someone that you not mentioned. How about Nate Landwehr?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Really good leverage play. I mean, I like David Onama to win, but just looking at it from an ownership perspective.
That's a good one.
Top optimal plays. It's got to be the main event. Yeah, that's where it starts for me.
Yeah, I was thinking. I mean, there is a world where the main event doesn't make it into the optimal lineup, but I think it's over 60% that it's in.
Top dart plays.
Dart throw for me is going to be Tyson Nam, just from a right hand, and
Would you throw Charlie
Ontiveros, yeah.
Favorite 3 to 4 parlays.
Oh, buddy.
I mean, at the top of the ticket would be Bruno Silva for me.
Yeah.
If I was gonna, I wouldn't go 4. I would go 3. The other 2, I would probably go.
I'd probably put Marlon Vera because he's at the end of the night and you could cash out if you need to.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then I probably would target. Third one's a little tricky, right? It might be I might actually put a prop out there, and it might be the under 1.5 for the Gabriel Benitez and the Charlie Ontiveros. I just don't see that going the distance.
And Sam says going for violence this week, so his over under is 9.5. Says if House wins, he bets Tyler Shuey. 9.5. Samuel, I think is a big number. I would go under on that one.
Yeah, I'm saying under on that, and I think they adjusted their bet, but I do think that they have an agreement of Tyler and Sam.
I don't know if Sam ever took it, but I said, to be fair, if he drops it to 7.5, I'll take the under. But if he wins in the over hits, I'll do a shoey on stream. But if I win in the under hits, then he has to gift 5 subs to the chat. So that way everyone wins.
There we go.
Awesome. Of course, Pete will be back here on Saturday for Live Before Lock, as Greg will be filling in for me. As I mentioned, I will do office hours on Saturday morning, probably around 11 a.m. Eastern time. So, any questions for me, I'll be sure to line those up. Of course, if you're watching this video after the fact, you can leave a comment in the comment section. Myself or Pete will definitely get back to you with that. So that is going to do it for this edition of the Stokastic.com. almost said that A word. Almost,
brother.
I got the A. Oh, no. Slow it down, Jay. Slow it down. Nope, did not quite get there, but appreciate everyone tuning in here for the Stokastic.com MMA strategy show. Huge thanks to our sponsor, Prize Picks. And I will talk to you next week right here on Stokastic.com. Have a great afternoon, everybody.